Hey everyone, how you doing today? One of the things I wanted to do with Rylas is really talk about what has changed or maybe needs to be considered with estate planning, giving the new world, right? Everything's electronic, email, content, pictures, all of those things. He's doing something he calls modern estate planning, and I just wanted to learn more. I'm sure you do as well. So Rylas, how you doing today?
Hi, doing great. Yeah, modern estate planning. We talked in our last video about how important it is to update your plan.
Mhm.
We recommend about every 3 to 5 years that you should, dust it off and go through it, make sure it's doing what you need it to do. Now, one of the changes that's happened, it's really since 2016, where a law was passed that made this possible. But I guess I want to set up the problem a little bit before I talk about the
Sure,
solution,
go for
because
it.
it's one of these things where I saw these laws and I was nerding out. I got so excited. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is great. And but let me tell you where it started from. So I'm a second generation estate planner.
Okay.
I learned the business from my dad. I started working at his office during college. Yes, right. I started working as a law clerk. And that was the first time I became aware of this issue. So someone called and they said, "Hey, my parents just passed away. What do I do now? I'm trying to figure out what accounts they own and what the next steps are. So, how do I figure out what accounts they have?" And I think they were expecting us to have that information as the attorneys, which is really common.
Okay.
So, and then I went to the attorneys and paralegals. I said, what do I tell this person? What do they do? And they said, tell them to look around the house for bank statements. And I was like, really? We don't have any better answers than that? Like,
Yeah.
surely they thought of that. Like, we got to have something better as the law firm. They're like, no, we don't. They have to figure out what's out there.
Wow.
And then we can help with the legal process to collect. We can determine if a probate's needed, if it's titled in the name of the deceased, if it's titled in the name of a trust. We can see who is entitled to act as the trustee, who the beneficiaries are, but it's up to them to figure out what's out there. So if they can't figure it out, here was the answer back then. This was like early 2000s.
Okay.
This is like 2002. The answer was start getting the mail. See what's come in the mail. So
Makes sense, I guess.
and this was real life. This is just a large law firm. There was 5+ attorneys there. That's just how it went. So that same call came in over and over, and I'm explaining to people, no, we don't have better answers. No, I wish we did. If your parents did not leave you records, then you just got to figure out what's out there.
Hmm.
So as I'm giving that, as I get that same call through the years, fast forward to 2016. At this point, I'm now an attorney. When did I start practicing? Like uh, well, 09. So I've been an attorney a little while.
Okay.
And it's called, I saw a pending legislation for the revised Uniform Fiduciary Access to Digital Asset Act. The
Hmm.
mouthful. RUFADA is what they call it.
Mm-hmm.
I always think of Arnold Schwarzenegger,
Okay.
like I'm your father, like FADA. It's kind of the acronym.
Nice.
So here's what this law says. So it defines digital assets as your information that's being stored on your behalf electronically. And it says that you have the right to control that information. You can direct what happens to your information that's stored on your behalf electronically.
Okay.
So I saw that. I got really excited. I'm like, finally, a better way. I can start giving better answers when that phone call comes in.
Okay.
So,
So I'm not making the connection. So why is that a better answer? Is it because we stop receiving mail and everything's electronic or on apps? Is that what happened?
yeah, so that's what happens. That's how people are living. So
Yep.
now catch up as planning to
Got
match that.
it. Got it.
So here's what we've done. So there's 3 steps to our process. And I'm teaching attorneys about this. I'm doing a class, continuing education. But the first is, so in our trust, powers of attorney, in all the estate documents, let's say my connection's unstable. Hopefully it's better now.
I can
So
hear
the
you. You're good.
general request will give the trustee the ability to get an inventory of digital assets limited to the type of the account, who's the owner, who's the beneficiary, and the value of the account. So your bank, so all your statements on paper, your bank's storing it electronically. So your bank has information. So direct to give just minimum information to the trustee or to the agents in the power of attorney, because that's the information that they need to do their job.
Got it.
So just having that language in the documents, now I can give a better answer that call comes in. So if someone's starting from scratch, starting from zero, if the challenge is, if you think there's an account at Wells Fargo can't talk to you unless you prove you're authorized on. So if you think it's in the name of your deceased parent, you have to go to probate and get your authority from the court to show that
Yeah.
you can act. If you think it's in a trust, you got to show them the trust. So what this does is that it allows to share just that general information.
Gotcha. So let me ask you this. I did my estate planning last, it might have been 16. And I've updated assets and whatnot since then, but I don't remember having that language in there. Would that be a separate bullet point or whatever?
Yeah, so it's a separate thing in each thing, and I think a lot of attorneys are missing this. Like I said,
Okay.
I love this topic. I've gone to these attorneys, they get creative with their topics. There's like contemporary issues and modern estate planning and all these different things. And I would go, just to raise my hand,
Yeah.
what are you guys doing about digital asset planning?
Yeah.
And they go,
nothing.
that doesn't matter.
Wow.
So a lot of people
Okay.
just aren't addressing it.
All right.
So
I will have to go back. Can you just send me an email with the acronym again? Or send me a note, because I have to go talk to my attorney on that.
yeah,
good.
Rufata. And tell him if he's not up on it, he can come to my CLE I'm doing on Thursday.
Cool.
I'm teaching attorneys about it.
So let's talk about that. You're doing a continuing learning education. What time is it? What channel? Where's it at?
So there's a link to it on maatlegal.com. That's
Okay.
MAAT legal. And it's going to be Thursday at, what time is it? It's good question. I know it's coming up this week, and Thursday, I think it's at 3:00.
Okay.
So there's a link there on maatlegal.com.
Cool. Okay.
And then, yeah, we're going to be talking about those rules and how it applies to practice. Now here's step 2. Here's the other reason why it's important. So that first problem we're solving is just transferring information. Now, a lot of our information has moved from envelopes and paper to emails and apps, electronic. So that's the first problem. Second problem, so I created a digital asset trust, a separate trust, to give more specific instructions over digital assets. Now, the first thing I started with is giving limited instructions over email, which is the modern mailbox. I said with email, give the trustee the ability to get a list of emails. So not the actual content. They can't read the content. They can just get a list of the emails received.
Okay.
So again, I'm thinking of, when I get that same call over, now I can give a better answer. So if someone has no clue, then we can have a limited look at email.
Okay.
I made it a limited request for a couple of reasons. One is just to share as little as possible, right? Make it an easier request for people to do. Because I started doing my own trust, right? That's how I developed this. I'm like, all right, what would I do, based upon these new laws and what's possible? And then I have a lot of engineer clients. I feel like they really help the process, kind of interviewing back and forth. Like, what would you do? Like, what do you think about this, that? Okay, so we want just a real limited look inside email. Now, the reason I wanted it easy, because the law says that the company can require a court order, if you're asking for content.
Got
So
it.
that's why we want just the minimum amount necessary, and we make it really clear that it's your wishes, so they can just get a limited look inside email. Now, if you're storing photos and videos on the cloud somewhere in a service like that, then we can also direct what happens to those things in a
Hmm,
digital asset trust.
that's interesting.
Now, I tell people to first look at the account. Like Facebook has really good Facebook has they're called legacy settings, which controls what happens to your accounts.
Hmm.
So if a company has that and you do it, that's controlling. But if they don't have a good one, then you can direct by trust. So, Google's system, they have an inactive account feature. So if no one logs in for so long, you can set up what you want to have happen. I keep videos. I have three YouTube channels. So I have my personal one where I do like home videos of my kids,
Hmm.
just as a way to upload videos.
Yep.
And then I have two business ones, the Mott Legal one and then Dana and Associates. But my personal one, I mentioned that in my digital asset trust. I say copy of that to my children when I pass away. And
Makes
then
sense.
also my Apple iCloud account. So all the photos that back up on my phone. So I leave instructions to copy those.
Cool.
Because what we're starting to see is if people don't make provisions for those, we've had people pass away and they say, how do I get all the photos on their phone? And
Yeah.
really the answer is, the legal answer is that you don't usually,
Wow.
because it's usually a single user license. When you click all those things, you're agreeing that it's just for your life. So if you share your password, that usually works for a lot of things if you're comfortable with that. But if people aren't able to access it, it can be gone forever.
Now, would you recommend people, I'll just talk about passwords. It just came to me. Would you recommend people put passwords in their trust, or like trust paperwork?
No, no. So
Okay,
I'm really proud of the fact that my system, it's a way to share all this stuff without putting passwords.
cool.
Here's why I don't like it. There's So I had a client. I was reviewing their plan. They gave me their binder. I was going through it. I'm like, "What's this?" It was a list of all their passwords. They're like,
Mm.
"Oh, give me that. That's all our
Right.
password." So it's one reason I just don't like creating that document.
Yeah.
Right? It's just you're doing all that stuff.
Hmm.
Number two, you're creating a chore, meaning that every time you update your password, you got to go back there
Yeah.
and update it. And the other thing too is those accounts. So here's something here's a question I get all the time. People call me and say, "Hey, my parents passed away. I have access to their online banking. Can I still go in there and do it?
Ooh,
They gave me it. They know I was using it. They
right.
told me I could use it. Can I still use it?" It's like, well, as an attorney,
Yeah.
that was their account, right? That
Right.
is a single user license,
Right.
and that really it ended when they passed away.
Yeah.
So
That's what
even
I would
though
think.
that you
Yeah.
had permission, um,
Now,
you
if
know,
they're
the
author, now, if they're an authorized user or whatever it's called, different story.
different story. Yeah, they
Yeah.
would have authority to it that way. But
Right. Yeah.
but with
That's
the
interesting.
password,
Yeah.
just by giving someone the password, you may think that they have access to it. But if that company
Yeah.
finds out that the person that created it passed away, there's the
Yep.
account in.
Yeah. Very cool. Any other thoughts on this digital asset planning? Because it's definitely a new concept I had not thought about.
Yeah, I think it's something that's exciting. It's kind of I call it like the warm and fuzzy side to estate planning. Passing your money is one thing, saving taxes, all of those things as well.
Hmm.
But I think people appreciate the other things more.
Yeah.
When
For
they have
the family photos for sure. Right. Yeah.
yeah.
Very
So
cool.
yeah, then the third thing that rounds out our
Hmm.
digital package is that after our plans are complete, we give people we call it the digital vault. So
Oh,
we give them a license through a software company, but they can decide who can see that information and when they can see it. So they can share some stuff right now with their financial advisor or CPA, or some things right now with their kids, or they can set it up where they only see it once they pass away.
Oh, I like that
So,
idea. The digital vault. That's
so,
cool.
so going back to passwords.
Hmm.
So if people do write them down and they do keep it, it's a matter of where do you keep that information,
Hmm.
right? So where do you store that? So
Yeah.
what some people will do is they'll use that digital vault service, and they'll say, hey, all my passwords are located,
Right.
like in my office. They'll point them to another place, another secure location
Yeah.
where they can get that information.
Very, very cool. Well, thanks for doing this. I apologize for this little rugrat being frustrating this morning. Hopefully it wasn't too much of a distraction. Any closing thoughts on this? I think it's something we all should consider and look at.
No, I think it's just if your attorneys aren't doing this, send them to mottlegal.com. They can learn more about it. And that's the reason I'm starting a coaching program for attorneys, and I'm offering these documents that I've created, and I've packaged it with some software that delivers it nicely, makes the process really easy. But I want to share this digital asset planning with people. I feel like it's so important, and there's not enough people talking about it. So I want to spread the news on that.
Very cool, Riley. So I appreciate you doing this. I'll talk to you next week.
And thank you. We'll see you next
Thank you.
week.
Yeah.